the UFC beat for UFC 252. Welcome to UFC Quick Picks, where myself and the other Oddshark UFC boys will be breaking down our best bets for the event. So let's start like we always do in the main event. We have Daniel Cormier coming in as a slim -120 favorite. Stipe Miocic coming back at -110. And I like the challenger Cormier in this one. So these guys have shared the octagon for 5 rounds together, and DC has landed more significant strikes in 4 of those 5 rounds, outlanding him by 59 total significant strikes in the 2 fights. So when you break the 2 fights down into 5 rounds, I give DC a 4-1 edge. I do think he will come into this one with a little bit of a better defensive game plan. You know, he was a little bit too loose towards the end of that second fight. He left himself open to those crushing body blows. Don't be surprised to see him work in more kicks. And if this is his last fight, maybe we'll see him go back to his roots and work in some more wrestling, where I do think he has an edge. So give me DC in the main event. Next up, we have another heavyweight fight, and this might be my favorite bet on the entire card. Jairzinho Rozenstruik and Junior Dos Santos. I like under 1.5 rounds, coming in at -120. So 9 of Rozenstruik's 11 career fights have ended before the 1.5 round mark. Both of these guys have incredible power, and there is really no threat of long grappling exchanges that are going to chew up a lot of clock. You take a look at JDS, he's been on the wrong end of multiple KOs over the past couple years. Take a look at Rozenstruik. His striking defense, not very good at all, just 34%. So the blueprint is definitely there for a quick finish in this one. Next up, my favorite bet on the preliminary part of the card. We have Herbert Burns taking on Daniel Pineda. I like another under 1.5 rounds, coming in at -135. So check this out. 13 career fights for Burns. He has 8 career first-round finishes, including 4 straight. Then we take a look at Pineda. He has 5 straight fights that have ended in the first round, and 23 of his 39 career fights have ended in the first. He's only gotten a decision 5 times in those 39 fights. So both of these guys, super aggressive. Neither will be looking to win this one on points. So there you have it. My 3 best bets for UFC 252 in sunny Las Vegas. Next up, here's Scotty. Woo!
Thanks, Joe, and what a great card it is shaping up to be. I love the main card. There's some real good scraps put on there. But I got a pick for the main event as well. Daniel Cormier, Stipe Miocic, and I'm going with DC to retire as the heavyweight champion, -120. I think he's going to get it done. I think he's taken this training camp seriously. I think he's going to go back to his wrestling a little more. Of course, he had the 1 takedown, maybe 2 in that second fight, and then he just sort of abandoned it. He had some success on the feet, and he thought that's where he could put Miocic away. He does have to watch out for the body shots, of course. That's what finished him in that second fight. And also when he fought John Jones, John ripped the body a few times too, and then he was dropping those hands to try and protect. That's when John went high and knocked him out. So if he does the same thing against Stipe, try to push the hands, he could get caught over the top. But I think DC wins this fight and then retires as the champ. Although his head coach, Javier Mendez, did mention that a potential trilogy with John Jones at heavyweight could be in the future, but we'll deal with that if it comes. My second pick is a parlay coming in at about +350, and it's Sugar Sean O'Malley to finish Marlon Vera, and that's at about +120. Magomed Ankalaev to finish Ion Cutelaba, and that's about -160. And then Herbert Burns and Daniel Pineda to not go the distance, and that's about -350. Sugar Sean, he's on the right trajectory to get up there in the top 5, fight for a title in the next year or so. But putting away a guy like Marlon Vera would really be a feather in his cap. Cheeto is a real tough competitor and has many ways to create problems for his opponents. But I think the smaller cage, there's been a lot of finishes. Sugar Sean's going to catch him at some point, probably drop him. If he doesn't knock him out, he may go for a submission because that's an underrated part of his game and maybe wants to show that off. Ankalaev and Cutelaba, of course, they had that weird fight earlier this year where they actually almost came to blows before the fight even started. Nobody broke the two apart when they came face to face. And then in the fight, Ankalaev landed a couple shots. Cutelaba sort of looked a little wobbly. Maybe it was a little gamesmanship, but referee Kevin McDonald stepped in and ended the fight, even though he was still standing and throwing. Very bizarre. Of course, Kevin McDonald stopped the Henry Cejudo TJ Dillashaw fight, so that's how I feel about Kevin McDonald. So I like Ankalaev to get the finish here. I think Kudaloba would have tired and eventually got finished. As far as Herbert Burns, Daniel Pineda, of course, used to be in the UFC, didn't have a great record, got cut, fought around in Legacy and all these other promotions, Bellator. He's coming off two back-to-back first-round finish victories, but tested positive in both ones. So I think Herbert Burns might win this fight by finish, 2 submission artists. But I want to play the safer route that this fight won't go the distance. So those are my 2 picks, Daniel Cormier and that parlay. Ian, what do you got?
Thank you, Joe and Scott. I'm sure your UFC picks were absolutely fantastic, and I'm going to guarantee on your guys' behalf that all of them are going to hit. Now, I just have one UFC pick for this weekend's card for you guys, and you know I'm going to come in with an underdog pick. It's my favorite underdog pick on the main card. I'm going to take John Dodson plus 155 against Merab Dvalishvili. So there's no secret to what the key to Dvalishvili's game is. It's going to be takedowns and wrestling. Over his last 4 fights in the UFC, he has 13 takedowns, 12 takedowns, 5 takedowns, and then 5 takedowns. So the big question is going to be, can he take John Dodson down to the mat, and can he keep him there? I say no. John Dodson has a pretty solid 80% takedown defense in his UFC career. I think he might just be a little bit too fast for Dvalishvili to get a hold of and drag to the mat. Really, the only guy who's been able to take down John Dodson is Demetrius Johnson, the former flyweight champ, but those fights were a long time ago, so I don't put a lot of value into those. Also, I think we're getting a little bit of good value on Dodson because of some recent record bias. He's only 2-3 in his last 5 fights, but those 5 fights have come against the best of the best in the bantamweight division. He also looked fantastic in his last fight against Nathaniel Wood, getting the TKO victory in the 3rd round. So give me John Dodson as a plus 155 underdog as my favorite underdog bet on the UFC 252 main card. So there you guys go. There's our best bets, our best picks for UFC 252. Best of luck this weekend. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can click the logo on either side of me. It's going to be on one of these 2 sides. Subscribe to us. Enjoy the fights. And best of luck with your bets at UFC 252.